Has Sela returned? Is Patrick Stewart potentially ruining Star Trek Picard? And did Discovery get some new badges? Let's pour it up! Hey everybody, Ketwolski here, checking in with another one of our hashtag Earl Grey Pour Up videos. Boy, is it great to be back on the old Earl Grey. I love the P2 stuff, but, you know, I don't get to ramble as much on that one, and I get to ramble more on the Earl Grey, so that's what we're here to do. So, the first story that we're going to be talking about today is the possibility of Sela returning for Star Trek Picard. Now, Sela is played by actress Denise Crosby, who also played Tasha Yar on Star Trek The Next Generation, and they kind of brought her back to play, you know, Sela, and then they also brought her back to play Tasha Yar in a couple of one or two episodes here and there for TNG. So, is she back, and is it possible and likely that her return will be in Season 1 or Season 2? Now, one, I think that she will return. I think that because the Romulans are obviously a huge focal point inside of Star Trek Picard, and one of the larger complaints of Star Trek Nemesis, the last TNG film, which naturally featured heavily the, you know, Romulans and all that, was the fact that Sela wasn't there, and they created this whole new character, Shinzon, and everyone was like, well, why didn't you guys just bring back Sela? It would have made more sense. It would have had some historical connection to the show, yada, yada, yada. So now that we're back again with the Romulans with a TNG-style story, are we looking to bring Sela back? And I would say the answer is probably yes. I think that Picard right now is dabbling quite a bit in the fan service department, and I don't say that in a negative way. I just think that's kind of where they are. They did Discovery, and it was very, very divisive, and now I think they're looking for a crowd pleaser, and what's better than crowd pleasing than fan service, especially if it's done right. So I think it's very likely that they will try to weave her into the story in some way. Now, whether or not she's going to have a physical appearance, that may be a different story altogether. Perhaps they may do some kind of reference to her, or maybe she'll be available in a flashback, or maybe even the short trek, you know, Children of Mars. She could be involved in that as well. You know, Alex Kurtzman and company have been pretty good about keeping certain secrets from us overall. I've heard a lot of rumors about Denise coming back as Sela, but I was kind of hoping it would be in, you know, there at New York Comic Con, but she wasn't, so it's either a lot of the rumors that I heard are totally wrong, which is very possible and very common for rumors, or that they're still being super secretive and coy about her potential return. Now, if she does return, would it be in Season 1 or 2? Well, I would say that it would probably be Season 2, possibly like the end of Season 1. I think there's an overload of some of the characters already for Picard Season 1 that we've already seen. We've got TNG returning cast members. We got some Voyager cast members back there. I mean, who knows what else is in there? So, and we have a whole new cast that we haven't even met yet. So we have a lot of characters to kind of get through overall for the first season. And I think adding in the big bad villain maybe a little bit too much, and also kind of spoil it a little bit. Like if there's some kind of Tal Shiar subplot going on with some kind of sneakiness happening around, like it would make sense for them to try to do a really fun hook for the end of, you know, Season 1 of Picard into Season 2 by having Sela kind of show back up and reveal that she was one of the people that was orchestrating whatever the events were inside of either Season 1 or perhaps whatever it was that led to Picard getting out of the Federation. We still don't know a lot about that either. So I am very kind of excited to see how that unfolds. I would love for her to be back. I'd love for her to be back as kind of the hook into Season 2, which we know they're getting because they've already signed on for that, and Patrick Stewart has confirmed that he's going to be back for Season 2. Speaking of Sir Patrick Stewart, I did a P2 video the other day where I talked a little bit about, you know, again, the kind of same story that we've heard quite a bit from the Star Trek producers and the, you know, Star Trek Picard showrunners, is that Patrick Stewart spent a lot of time in the writer's room helping crack the nut on his personal character story and the overall story of Picard Season 1. And obviously a lot of people were like, this is great, this is cool, getting the actors' input, but some people were like, no, I think putting actors in the writer's room leads to really bad decisions, and it could be, fall apart, and this could all just be doing whatever it is that Patrick wants, and that's the end of it, and the show may suffer because of that. So I'll say a few things with that. Number one is people would like to reference the dune buggy sequence in Star Trek Nemesis, and I'll remind people, I think there's like a weird misconception here, but in the behind the scenes, and maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but in the behind the scenes of Star Trek Nemesis, Patrick Stewart talked a lot about how much he enjoys driving and how much he enjoyed that sequence, because he likes driving so much. But if I remember right, he says that John Logan, the screenplay writer of Star Trek Nemesis, is the one who put that concept in the script. Now, did he do that to appease Patrick Stewart? I don't know. I don't know what came first, his desire for a chase sequence or the chase sequence itself. But based off of the information that we have in the behind-the-scenes footage, it would seem as though the sequence was there, and then Patrick Stewart was happy about that sequence. So I don't know why people were kind of putting that on him as he wrote that whole sequence in the movie and that was all Patrick Stewart's fault. I don't believe that that's true. The other thing that I want to say, he has some experience in the writer's room. He's not just some random person that's just trying to step in and speak his mind and get exactly what he wants because this is his show. He has some experience with the creative process behind the camera, and he's obviously a veteran actor. He's been in the industry for decades and decades and decades. So he understands the filming process. Not to say that that specific line of work gives you automatic wisdom behind the camera, but he understands filming and creating scripts and creating good characters. He understands characterizations, and he is Jean-Luc Picard. So I think with all of his experience inside of Star Trek in general, I think it's very possible that he could have provided a very valuable input that helped guide the show into something that was truly great. Because for all we know, the original writers of Picard, I should say original, but the writers of Picard were just trying to do all the greatest hits again, which we all know about, which they're kind of doing, but I'm wondering if his perspective of, yeah, we already did me punching the Borg in the face. We did that in First Contact. Like, let's do something different here. And that's kind of some of the insight that he was able to give to these new writers that weren't really around when they did the previous versions of his character. And I think carrying that legacy into the discussion room, I think is only going to be beneficial. I mean, obviously we won't know until the show finally airs, but in my personal opinion, I don't think it's that big of a serious concern in my mind. But let's also be real here that if they weren't consulting Patrick Stewart in the writer's room, then people would also probably be complaining about not consulting him at all. So honestly, I think some people are just going to complain no matter which way they go, so there's no way to really please everybody, and ultimately we're just going to have to wait to see what the product looks like. The final story that we're going to talk about today is the new-ish style Discovery badge that we got on that now deleted tweet that Wilson Cruz put up a couple days ago. And I kind of theorized in my P2 video that it was maybe an attachment to an offshoot of the Federation, or maybe they're jumping on board with a random splinter group, or it's the leftover of the Federation, something to do with the Federation. Where a couple of other ideas popped into my head, and I think somebody actually commented this, but I had thought of it as well, and somebody else kind of reassured me, which is it almost looks Bajoran in nature, and kind of like that weird, rounded edges and stuff like that. It looks a little Bajoran in nature. It could also be maybe some kind of like tag or ID thing where it's like prison related, where perhaps now that they're under the foot of whatever that organization was or that group of people that looked like they were kind of taking over the Discovery in the trailer, maybe now there's like prison ID tags or something that kind of keep track of them and they have them sitting on their shirts. I don't know. That's kind of a lame idea, I think. I hope that they don't do that. I think bottom line, though, is whatever this badge is going to have the communication capability where they're going to be able to tap it and use that to talk to each other, similar to that which we saw in later iterations of Trek, as opposed to the flip-up communicator that they were still using in Discovery, because obviously they were in the original series time frame. So I think that's definitely going to have that capability, and possibly even more, which would be even more exciting, is what other cool capability could they attach to this new badge? Could it be like an automatic transporter thing, which we kind of saw a little bit in Nemesis, where they had the little emergency transporter button thing that they used for Picard to get off the scimitar? That would be kind of cool if that has like a transporting capability, or who knows what else it could possibly be up to. So I'm excited to see where it came from, why they have it, and what its capabilities are. It could be something really, really exciting. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into the rumor rundown. So two things I want to talk about in the rumor rundown right now. One is, of course, the rumor attached to CBS stealing from Anas Abdin, the whole tardigrades lawsuit thing. The tardigrade lawsuit GoFundMe has overgone its $20,000 original budget and has now gone a little bit over there. And so they continue to actually raise more and more money as more and more people continue to cover this story. I'm not quite sure what the point of the $20,000 is. There is a description in the bottom of the whole GoFundMe thing there, but if you look at the financial breakdown there, it looks like they're gonna need a lot more than $20,000 based off of that breakdown. So I don't know what they're gonna do with the $20,000. I guess congratulations is in order for reaching that goal, but I would expect to see it probably continuing to raise up more money over time, and they may even actually just go ahead and either do another one or just move out that $20,000 to possibly even $30,000 or $40,000 to try to continue to raise money for Anas Abdin's lawsuit. And I guess we'll just kind of sit by and wait to see exactly how that unfolds. Another story that I want to talk about is something that kind of, I think, just broke today, but I haven't covered in a P2 topic, so I'll get the P2 out probably tomorrow in regards to this. But basically, the CEO of CBS Interactive, or CBS All Access, as they like to call it, has essentially stepped down after 8 years in the job, which is a really long time in any job, I think. 8 years is a very long time. So he has stepped down, and his deputy has now stepped up to be the CEO of CBS All Access. The reason I'm putting this is obviously a real news story. The reason I'm putting this into the rumor rundown is I'm confident that we're about to see a flurry of videos talking about how CBS All Access is failing and everything's all doom, 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 doom because this guy, left his job after 8 years. So if you're hearing this story for the first time, go check out the whole story down on the link I have in the description below. Go read about it. Understand that it was this one specific person that decided to leave his position after being there for 8 years and getting the All Access and Showtime subscriber numbers all the way up to 8 million. It went from nothing to 8 million subscribers. So that's awesome for this particular person. I think it's great. I'm going to talk more about the details of that story. So I'm kind of being a little vague with it, but I wanted to touch on it really fast. I'll talk more about those details in the P2 coming out tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of rumors about this, but it's really pretty standard approach to any business thing. So just keep that in mind as you're perusing around the internet and getting bombarded with these new hate videos, I'm sure, that are bound to come out in the next few days. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into our Trek Trivia question of the week. Okay, so last week's question was, I thought, pretty easy, but I tried to trick you guys up with when I said how many runs did the Logicians get versus the Niners on Deep Space Nine, and the answer is 10. It was 10-1. The trick part of that, of course, was the difference between runs and hits, where, in fact, I believe it was 14-7 on that front, but, in fact, the final score of the game was 10-1. So congratulations to a few of those who got that. Not a lot of you actually got this question right, so it was a bit more challenging than I had originally expected, but congratulations to those of you who did get it right. All right, so this week's question should be pretty easy for you Voyager fans out there, and the question is, in what Voyager episode did the EMH appear with a full head of hair? Now, of course, go ahead and get your, answers down below. We'll go ahead and get that conversation started there, and I will heart those answers as we get closer to the next Earl Grey episode to give everyone an opportunity to try to get their answers in without it being spoiled by too many of you guys with my little hearts. So good luck to everybody who wants to get their comments down below, and I'm excited to see who gets it right. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into the comment of the week. All right, so this week's comment comes from user Hexterguard99, and it says, I think it's best to keep the origins of the Borg an unsolved mystery since it helps add to their status as a villain. Well, Hexter, I guess I'm going to call you Hexter. I'm going to call you Hexter. I agree with that. I have two kind of schools of thought with that, which is one, having the mysteriousness of their origins kind of play up their, their threat level, because we don't really will never know exactly where the Borg came from, I think is kind of fun and exciting as like a species. I think that does have like some tangibility to it, and I understand why you're saying that. The other side of me says, well, wouldn't it be fun if there was a really cool twist where it was the Federation or one of our popular Star Trek characters was one of the reasons why the Borg actually existed to begin with, and kind of connecting all those things together. I wish to kind of wrap up the Borg on screen at some point, and I think exploring the deep origins and having a really fun twist ending might be, like if my scales were kind of like this, I would say it's slightly more towards give me the twist ending and make it kind of connected back to a bunch of other things that happened in the past of Star Trek, as opposed to, it just being kind of a mystery forever. I'm kind of like a little bit onto this right now, but it kind of goes back and forth. But I definitely understand your point there, and I'm curious to hear what other people think actually about this particular comment. I really want to hear other people's inputs and thoughts about this idea. Do you want it to be kind of a mystery, or do you prefer it to be kind of revealed, and in what way would you like it to be revealed? So this was a really great, really great comment, so thank you for sharing. All right, so that wraps up today's Earl Grey video. I hope that you guys and gals enjoyed it. And remember, we did talk about a couple of interesting topics. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about Sela possibly returning. What do you think that badge is doing on Discovery? Is Patrick Stewart ruining Picard? And also reply back to that comment from Hexter. I thought that was a really interesting comment. I can't wait to hear what you guys and gals think about that. So get all your comments down below, and let's go ahead and get the conversation started, and I'll catch all of y'all next time. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies!